clan invasion of the Inner Sphere has finally made its way to Mech Mercenaries. The Shadow of Kerensky DLC launched on September 5th of 2025, and so scared were my keybinds that they decided to escape. So I, being too lazy to convince them to come back, and wanting more immersion after many hundreds of hours on mouse and keyboard, decided to break out my joystick and throttle for this new playthrough. I haven't played this way in years, so I apologize in advance if my mech control is a bit janky or my aim isn't perfect. Lucky for me, my friends came along to carry me and help drive those clanners back. Not that I needed to be carried, because as it turned out, I could still hold my own, much to even my surprise. If you haven't already picked up Mercenaries, or the Shadow of Kerensky DLC, or Mech clans, please consider doing so through my affiliate links. I get a kickback and you get a Steam key. Check the video description below. PGI brought their newly crafted cinematic talents to bear with an energetic 7.5-minute intro cutscene to set the tone, along with thoughtful and engaging dialogue throughout the 12 campaign missions to keep you invested in the story and further build the world. And let us not forget the best part, official inclusion of clan battle mechs into Mech Mercenaries. So no longer must you rely on mods to pilot your favorite Warhawk, or Mad Cat, you freebirth. On screen now is the list of the 16 clan Omnimechs you'll be up against. If you want to salvage a few for yourself, you should strongly consider maxing out that salvage bar before each mission. Not only are the clan mechs tougher than you, they're faster than you, and their firepower is unmatched when compared to the best the Inner Sphere can muster. So if you don't fancy piloting their shiny death machines, at least look out for their equipment. You can salvage clan weaponry and Fahad jerry-rig them into your Inner Sphere mechs, which you should definitely do because you'll need that firepower for the fights ahead. To help keep the clanners at bay, 13 new mech variants and 4 new weapon variants have been added, as well as 2 new assault mechs, the Atlas II and the Bull Shark. However, you will not see them here since I did not see them in my playthrough. Let's talk about the clan mechs for a moment. I've always been drawn to their unique designs and less humanoid appearance. I especially love the cockpit sway ported over from clans. Really makes it feel like I'm in a big lumbering machine. Which leads me to a complaint that I can't ignore. The mech stomps, when in first person, are not at the same speed as in third person. And for reasons I can't quite explain, this bothers me oh so much. Watching the mech throw its weight around as it tries its best to maintain its speed, only to go into first person and all that momentum is lost. That sense of heaviness is no longer present. It feels much too lethargic. The clan sway mitigates this to an effect, but it's still quite noticeable on big boys like the Direwolf. A missed opportunity, I think, is the lack of clan Betty in clan mechs. To my friends who don't play MechWarrior and are currently confused, 1, you should play MechWarrior because it's fun, and 2, Betty is the name of the computer voice that bitches at you when shit goes wrong. Like this.
Right torso critical damage. Right leg critical damage. Right torso destroyed. Gauss ammo destroyed. Weapon explosion detected. Ammo explosion detected. Destroyed.
Mech Mercenaries and Mech clans use different voice actresses for Betty, and I think that to help further alienate clan mechs from IS mechs and to give them a bit more distinction, the clan Betty voice from the clan's game should have been ported over to Mercenaries so you hear that voice when you pilot clan mechs. But instead we just get the normal Mercenaries voice. Modular Omnipods are gone, and in their place are Omni hardpoints that have predetermined sizes, kind of like how Mech 4 did it, so you can mount any weapon of your choosing so long as it fits within the size requirement. Lastly, new biomes and AI pilot traits. The new biomes are pretty, and the AI pilot traits give your AI lance mates certain bonuses if you put them in a mech matching their abilities. And that about wraps up all the new stuff. Let's now dive into the campaign. Alright, so the campaign starts you off in the year 3049 with 12 million C-bills, a company's worth of mechs, and 1 enforcer, which you can just throw out. I appreciate the variety of selection here, but already I'm feeling a little overpowered because out of those 13 mechs, 8 of them are assaults. Will we really need that much firepower? Well, the only way to find out is by accepting the first contract, which ships us off to a periphery system to diplomatically keep the peace between two rival pirate factions. Our diplomacy is successful as we end the conflict by removing both factions from existence, because it's still peacetime if no one is left alive to fight each other, right? Sadly, I wasn't able to take part in this pirate annihilation as my NIGHTSTAR was too slow, so I spent most of my time making sure no one sneaks up behind us. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. But wait a minute.
We are the real warriors of the Inner Sphere. Can any of you present a real challenge, or are you all pathetic surrats?
Ooh, weird talk for a pirate.
I was just called a
I
surat.
don't think these are pirates.
This other pirate faction, they talk all strange, and I've never seen mechs like this before. Who the hell are these people?
Their attack range is far beyond ours. I'm bleeding units.
It's true, Commander. If my calculations are correct, their targeting range is double ours.
How's that even possible?
I appreciate the dialogue between the characters in these early moments. The sense of wonder and confusion is certainly there. Nobody knows who these mysterious pirates are yet. They pilot formidable mechs we've never seen. You get the feeling there's more to the story here, but if you're keen to find out what's going on, you'd better make for your dropship. These pirates hit hard and you're almost out of plot armor. Oh my god, what happened to you, Dinner?
Oh my god.
Right?
Your flavors will only leave this battlefield as my claim, Isorla.
No idea what that is, pal, but I want no part of it.
So, not to nitpick too much here, but I think PGI missed some opportunities in this first encounter to fully embrace what it would be like to face the clans for the very first time. We're not meant to know who or what they are yet, so the characters thinking they're some crazy unheard of pirate faction carries some weight, but our targeting computers aren't supposed to be programmed to identify their mechs. So a few immersion points get taken away when we target our first clan mech and Betty simply tells us exactly what it is with a full spec readout. I do, however, really like that because these are Omni mechs, and IS targeting computers have no idea what that even means yet, the variant display will call up an error, or in the case of the famous Timberwolf, display either mad or cat, which is an obvious reference to an iconic moment in Battletech history, hence where the Timberwolf got its Inner Sphere name. I also like how we're seeing the Inner Sphere designations for all these clan mechs, whereas if you play the clans game, you get the clan names. However, I still think it would have been beneficial for Betty to have some lines that say unknown, or anomaly detected, or something slightly scary sounding, to make the player think, oh shit, if my own mech can't ID these adversaries, then something is definitely wrong and I'm in danger. Fear of the unknown plays a big role in giving the clans their iconic status, and every avenue of that idea should be exploited to properly convey their significance. As we make our mad dash off the planet, our characters start to realize that this isn't just an isolated situation, with the foreboding sighting of a working warship solidifying that belief. We weren't yet able to salvage any clan mechs, but we ripped some equipment off their machines, and Fahad went to work as we flew to our next destination, Rotigo, where we meet up with a rather angry man by the name of Leaf.
You'll find no honor here. Just resistance. All units, advance to the city.
I'm about 90% sure this is Jeffrey Combs, which if true, that's awesome. We are contracted to help Leaf defend the city of New Starburg, which is in imminent threat of clan attack. Unfortunately, Fahad couldn't fix our assaults in time, so we were forced to run some heavies. Now, remember when I pondered on whether or not we started out too strong? Well, this second mission humbles that notion quickly, as a few stars of lights and mediums pose significant threats to our now less powerful lance. They have better armor than us and their weapons do more damage, so to maintain our tactical advantage, we need to be strategic about our formations and coordinate our targets to bring them down as quickly as possible, which we sort of had a hard time doing because this fight is mostly CQB and a little chaotic. Being at this inherent disadvantage is the antithesis of Clans gameplay, where you get that power fantasy of plowing through wave and wave of spheroid army while coming out mostly unscathed. In Shadow of Kerensky, you're the underdog, and they make you feel it, at least for now. As much as I like power fantasies when done right, I enjoy being the underdog more because it challenges me, makes me consider my builds more carefully, plan out my movements in advance rather than just mosey forward obliterating anything that isn't a rock.
We have the position of these wolves locked in.
Our defense turns into offense as we take to the outskirts to drive this invasion force back. This is also where Shren gives us a Hellbringer he managed to salvage, though at this point it's too badly damaged to use right away. But my NIGHTSTAR's up and running again, so I hop back in it. Did I say Shran? I meant Leaf. Lef? While I'm out here, let me share a constructive criticism I have of some of these levels, particularly the first and this third level. They look nice, and I like the open space, but I think they're too big, mostly because our assaults are too slow. There's too much downtime between nav points or things that happen. Now, there are two ways to solve this: add more enemies or make the map smaller. I lean towards simply making the map smaller, because we saw in clans how adding too many enemies to the field can make it feel like a slog, and we don't want that. Anyway, the clanners we do see out here seem thoroughly unprepared for our appearance, and we make quick work of them. Though that still doesn't mean that they aren't a threat if you just stare them in the face. Frickin' idiot, God.
Encountered some puny things. Look like fireflies. Shouldn't be a problem.
Uh-oh.
But there is indeed another dropship dropping down near your position.
I think a dropship is supposed to land here because Rihanna says so, but it doesn't show up. So maybe it's glitched? I don't know. PGI, please fix?
Alright, you guys go first, and I'll cover from the back.
Oh no, that's foreboding. Around the corner lays a terrible omen, which my friend decided to hold off and let me face first. And from beyond the smoke are bees! They will try to swarm you and punch out your cockpit, so ensure to make quick work of them before they get close. This is especially a problem for me in particular because my mech's cockpit is quite large, an easy target. That's me, stop shooting! At the end of this mission, we end up upsetting Shran by leaving him and his army to die on the planet. And what a terrible, merciless death they'll have. This fourth mission presents some interesting challenges. As we scale the side of this giant trench, clanners pop up from the other side, and with their longer range are easily able to take pot shots at us, which I'm not as easily able to do, what with my HOTAS aim and inferior weaponry. How much damage can one adder take?
That much.
He took a lot
God
of damage.
damn.
But we can't shit our pants.
Ouch! Where the hell did that come from? So if you're at this part, make sure you take longer range weaponry. Pinpoint is probably best as LRMs won't be able to lock on easily and you don't want to spend too much time out in the open. Stick to the sidewall and use the rocks for cover. Am I forgetting something? Oh, I forgot to tell you why we're here. So, we're here to meet up with an old friend of my dad, Sebastian Spears. He's a high-ranking member of a coalition called the Interstellar Expedition. He might be able to figure out who these clanners are and what the hell they want. Remember Lilith, the character you play as during the Ghost Bear DLC? Well, her star is here, and she's been sent to stop you. Anywho, we beat back Lilith and her Ghost Bears, pick up spears, escape back to our dropship, have a pint of Timbicky Dark, and wait for this whole thing to blow over. It is now that our characters finally start to piece together who these invaders might be, and it is here where the limitations of Mercenaries' storytelling capabilities show itself most prominently. I was in a co-op group, but I was not the host. And with the exception of the intro cinematic, only the host could see future cutscenes or conference table discussions. This made it hard to follow what's going on in the plot, because now the host either has to somehow explain what's going on to us, or frantically try to get their game streamed to Discord, which causes us to miss potentially important dialogue or story information. PGI, please figure out how to fix. A footnote, this does not happen in clans. Everyone sees the cutscenes that play out in that game. If not all at the same time, at least everyone in the party actually sees them. One more small thing here. During Mason's conversation with Spears in the mech bay, he mentions how they got their hands on this Hellbringer.
Beat back a wave of hostiles calling themselves Clan Wolf.
Now this lines up with what happened in game, except the camo pattern on the cutscene Hellbringer is of Clan Smoke Jaguar, and not the Clan Wolf mech that we currently have inside our bay. Our characters notice that the Cameron Star logo on the Clan Wolf warship was also on the old Star League depot we visited previously. With this potential link now established, their new goal is to review the info they gathered from a data core within that facility to see if there's a connection. But that'll have to wait. The prince and his people of the planet we're on want to escape the system. We're already here, and we need the money anyway, so Rihanna contracts us to assist with the evacuation. Except I won't be assisting with anything because I got my NIGHTSTAR stuck on top of the repair bay. Well, I'm up here with nothing to do. Remember that data core I talked about? Well, there's one big problem with recollecting it. Our dropship can't establish a link to Interstellar Expedition's HQ. much like how my mech's legs can't establish a connection to the ground. Without that connection, we cannot download the data core. So Spears has to activate his backup plan, which requires that we do some system hopping to collect all the backup fragments he's scattered around the region. We head to the first location and defend the data vault from the clan forces trying to destroy it before we can collect it. This is when the action heats up a little bit as the clans increase their attack numbers. Constant pressure is applied to us as multiple dropships send a steady stream of combatants our way. Still mostly lights and mediums though, with only a select handful of heavies getting mixed in. Still though, if you don't take them out quickly enough, that base can be easily overrun. I feel like they could have slightly reduced the volume of smaller enemies and instead add in more heavies with the odd assault. We're halfway through the DLC at this point, so ramping up the difficulty I think is fine. Add to that, this game mode is already in the base game to begin with, so it's not like I haven't done all this before. I understand that story-wise, the clans and their stupid, silly war doctrine wouldn't bid on sending out lots of heavies or assaults to face us, and let's face it, our little mercenary company isn't a priority target, so in their eyes, we're probably more of a side objective. They probably thought a few throwaway stars would simply take care of us. The next batch of fragments live on the frozen abyss of Kaldrith. Instead of defending a data vault, this time we're here to destroy it. Wait, what? Yeah, so the story tie-in for this 7th campaign mission doesn't make much sense to me, or maybe I'm not understanding it correctly. I don't know. I'll explain it, and you can tell me in the comments if you think I'm either missing the point or if this mission's story justification is genuinely questionable. But before that, real quick, this fire moth, Cord, I shot it with dual Gauss and it ate the bullet, I guess? I don't know where they went. My reticle went red, I saw the explosion, and literally nothing happened, so... a PGI, please fix! Anyway, tangent over, back to the story. So we're here to collect data shards, right? But the only way to get the vaults to send us the data is to destroy the buildings containing the servers? What? Spears says it himself. The intel doesn't trigger unless the building goes down. You level the structures and each one fires off its shard. Only full structural failure will activate the burst. Okay, so PGI is attempting to create a reason for using the destruction game mode for this mission, but the believability of this reason is a little far-fetched, I think. Why would we need to destroy buildings to get them to transmit data? Also, wouldn't that instead be like a last resort option, or extreme backup plan, or most believably a safeguard in the event the vault gets attacked? Not by us. So why would we be using our last resort first, especially if it's imperative that we collect this information? Why wouldn't we want to try a few safer options first? A few being either remotely connecting like we did before, or even physically entering the buildings and pulling the drives. There are just too many variables when it comes to leveling structures to suspend my disbelief that by simply demolishing a building I've reliably activated the transfer of sensitive data without complication. What if the transmission antennas get hit first? What if there's a power interruption and the transfer doesn't finish? What if the building collapses too quickly? I could go on, but you get the idea. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Honestly, and I'm afraid of how much I actually like this idea, but I think this would have been a perfect escort mission. Now hear me out, don't put your pitchforks away. If done right, it could be fun and rewarding. Let me paint a picture for you. Set up a little convoy of trucks or something. Like, remember the Swiftwinds in Mech 4? Maybe add some local forces to provide some support through tanks or helis or something. For gameplay reasons, only allow the enemy AI to target the convoy like 10 to 20% of the time, so they're not being fired upon the entire mission, and make them super beefy so they don't die right away. So, okay, we spawn in, gotta protect the convoy. Easy peasy. Let's say they move at a speed that we can match, and they run their path from base to base collecting the data. It'll take a few minutes at each base to break in and pull the drives, so this gives us, the players, time to repair at the repair base. Onward to extraction, and we've done it! Something to consider at least. I know escort missions aren't ever received positively, but that's because they aren't ever done right. If PGI were to try to figure this out for the future, I'd at least be happy to provide feedback. Maybe we can finally revive escort missions that don't suck! Oh, and you've probably noticed by now that I am obliterating my opponents. That's because my NIGHTSTAR's inner sphere weaponry has been replaced by far superior clan tech. In fact, let's take a minute to talk about the MechLab and this build. Just a note that I am using the yet another MechLab mod to allow full customization, because that's how I like to play and I don't like the vanilla MechLab restrictions. Initially my plan was to build a somewhat speedy, brawling NIGHTSTAR with 2 AC-10s and 6 medium pulse lasers, but we had trouble finding AC-10s and didn't have enough money for a bigger engine. So instead I opted to keep the Gauss rifles that came with it and played around with a variety of lasers until I found a build that I was mostly okay with. To complement my armament, I wanted large pulse lasers, but we had trouble finding those too, and besides, they were too big for the arm and head hardpoints anyway. So I compromised with medium lasers and 1 large laser, which feels a little underpowered on a mech this big, but I did plan on changing all that out once I finally found the almighty Clan Gauss rifle. The Clan Gauss rifle occupies 1 less slot than the inner sphere rifle, so that frees up the 2nd energy hardpoint in the arm, which means that I can now utilize my tonnage more efficiently by upping the engine once we finally found one, and boating 6 whole medium pulse lasers. Clan pulse lasers, might I add, so they're even stronger and they reach further. Combine that with the extra damage and cooldown of those 2 Clan Gauss rifles, and I now have a faster firing, more formidable tank of death. And boy, do I feel like an unstoppable god as I use their own tech against them, ripping clan mechs apart left and right in pretty much one shot. Yet, 8 missions in, and they're still only sending lights and mediums at us. Enough of this! I do enjoy feeling almighty, and yeah, sure, it is satisfying to delete mechs out of existence. But to be honest, I only expect that in small doses. By now I'm getting just a little bit bored of constantly facing just hordes of cannon fodder. This goes back to what I said earlier about there needing to be a challenge. We're only 4 levels away from finishing this DLC, so by this point I really think that we should be facing tougher opponents. Now, one could argue that maybe my build is too strong, but I remain confident in my opinion that handicapping the player through the MechLab is not the solution to this issue. That's what MechWarrior is all about: customization, finding a build that works for you. The solution instead is actually already in the game, it just isn't being used. What we need to do is reduce the volume of smaller enemies and make the enemies that I do face tougher. Okay, so how do you do this? Assaults, heavies, dropships even. Start throwing big stuff at me. Even throw in a boss fight or something. Change it up so I'm not doing the same thing over and over again each mission, which is killing lights and mediums. Which actually, now that I think of it, lack of mission variety within this DLC could also be a problem. We've mostly just gone from point A to point B, taking out mechs, or destroying a base, or defending a base. There hasn't been much more than that, and perhaps that's part of what we're missing. Now what's ironic about this, which actually proves my point, is that by being this overpowered, it actually made me overconfident, leading to unnecessary risk-taking, which ultimately resulted in the only death I'd have this playthrough.
That guy.
My vulture. Oh shit, I got headshotted. Let's go back to the start of the map. Look at how much damage I took from facing just those couple of light mechs. And my overconfidence led to my destruction. So, to keep that in check, simply give the bad guys more guns.
Oh
my god, I just see a dead mistlings flying above me. Continuing on, our attempt to launch the 9th mission was, well, far more difficult than the mission itself. Dinner and I had, for some reason, lost access to the menu, and we couldn't see our mech list. So the host had to shut the game down, restart, and we tried again. But all was still not well. We couldn't get to the mission screen to launch into battle, so the host had to launch the mission by himself and invite us from in-game. Once we finally managed to hit the ground, we were unable to see the map, so that was strange. Not that it would matter though, because most strange of all was this mission. The game had swapped Dinner and I, so he was in my NIGHTSTAR now, and I connected to the Nova he'd been piloting.
Enemy mech ahead.
Oh wow. I see what you mean about these doors.
Right? They're fantastic. The objective was to hold off an offensive from Clan Smoke Jaguar for 7 whole minutes. Actually, it was 7.5, but who's counting, right? Anyway, that sounds like it should be quite the fight, right? Wrong. Dinner, myself, and our AI Banshee hung out on the cliff near our spawn, while Val roamed the compound below in his mauler in search of clanner treats to devour. And speaking of dinner, I was hungry. I've spent the entirety of this mission eating my food and watching dinner torso twist. I kid you not, I spent most, if not all of this fight just sitting here eating my food. Well, Dinner experienced the joys of being a NIGHTSTAR pilot, and Val attempted to hunt down his prey before Dinner got to it first. I especially loved how the characters had voice lines to suggest that we're on death's door, when in effect it was the polar opposite.
I don't know how much longer we can hold out here. I don't know how much we have left.
I love how the voice lines, Commander Mason is like, oh, I'm so close to dead, and we're all fresh.
We are here to help drive these invaders back.
This is the most lame
Help we can get.
defense mission.
We had no choice.
Make sure nothing bad happens. I'm gonna go put my plate away. I got up and left my computer for 2 whole minutes and nothing bad happened. Well, except the game started sounding funny. Something got funky with my record audio, and I'm not sure if this is still an OBS bug or if there's more going on, maybe some instability within my system. Let's now directly compare this to Mech 5 Clans for a second. There's a similar defense mission to this one late game that pits you up against quite literally a horde of enemies. You have 3 repair bay generators that you must keep alive if you want to use the repair bays once they unlock, about 3/4 of the way through. And you really need to keep your mechs fresh during this onslaught, because past this point are spoilers I can't discuss, but just believe me when I say that you're going to want as much armor and as much firepower as possible. Achieving that goal though is very difficult, even if you field all 5 mechs with elite builds. And honestly, it was the only level that I really struggled with in Clans. But it was a challenge, and I liked it. Now, I'm not saying that we need something as serious as that here, but maybe something in between. These missions, after all, are all at the 120 difficulty level, so why don't they feel it? In the 10th mission, we're up against the Diamond Sharks, and Dinner had a Mech 4 intro moment.
That's my old unit. Why would our own forces attack us?
It was inevitable.
We're here to retake that old Starlink base, because all those data fragments we collected lead us to believe that there's a secondary, previously unknown data vault hidden deep within. Following a successful infiltration, there's another cutscene that boils down to our characters retrieving said data pack and taking on some Diamond Shark POWs, one of whom is voiced by the same actress who voiced Naomi in Clans.
And you freebirths did it without our best warriors there to defend it.
That was your mistake.
Do you intend to take us as bondsmen? We would rather commit bondsref than serve as your prisoners.
Not sure what that means.
Now, this cutscene is rather interesting because there's a lot to unpack here. By using his father's access codes on the console, it's revealed here that Mason's dad was at some point affiliated with Clan Diamond Shark.
That's my old unit.
So that sounds like a big deal, right? Yet Mason seems totally unamused by that, but that's because I don't think that him, nor any of the characters in this moment, grasp the significance of what exactly that means. This clan lady does though, and boy is she not having any of it.
Allow me to commit bondsref, and I will no longer be in the presence of the son of a freeborn deserter.
Still don't know what that word means.
This is, after all, only the very start of the clan invasion, so the implications of Nikolai Mason being a spy for the clans this whole time hasn't fully been realized. And I hope that in time, it will. We then head back to our ship where we have a conference table discussion, where the characters just sort of say the same thing we just saw in the cutscene. But now Mason's paying attention.
So, wait, my father, he was a spy for these Diamond Sharks?
That's the early theory. Some details I'm still trying to piece together myself.
I just can't believe that. I suspected Dad was related to the people who followed Kerensky into Exodus, but never this.
So, I don't know, maybe he wasn't looking at the 6 big-ass screens with his dad's giant-ass face on it that say Clan Diamond Shark? I just think that we should have seen some reaction out of him here in this cutscene rather than in the ready room, because any potential mood or emotion you want the player to feel is gone when they're just sitting there watching lifeless avatars read them some dialogue. Now, Mason does mention it in the final cutscene, but again, there's no indication that he has any feeling about this one way or another. You would think that he would.
Turns out he really was one of them. Spying on the inner sphere to prep for this invasion all along.
Alright, yeah, there is a bit of sadness there, but, like, I don't know. He's being very reserved about this. I'd be freaking out if that were me. The penultimate level has us defending the data vault from the sharks who don't like that we're still here. We're in some sort of city thing that doesn't match the previous map, so I'm guessing we've moved closer to where clan forces are dropping to try and head them off. Fahad was again falling behind on repairs, but I can't blame the poor guy, but that did mean that the NIGHTSTAR and the Warhawk were off the table. So I went back to that old Marauder, and what a stressful mission this was for me. I'm not sure if Val or Dinner were stressed during this time, but I sure was. As much as I love the design of the Marauder, the damn thing handles like a brick. It's slow as balls, it takes forever to turn, and its firepower is a mere tickle compared to what I've been fielding. Add to that its weaker armor, and, well, not only do I feel undergunned, I also feel vulnerable. Perhaps giving us 8 assault mechs off the start of the game was a bad idea after all. Maybe instead give us only 2 or 3 and replace the rest with heavies, maybe a few mediums that I'll sell anyway. That way the assault mech acts as a goal for me to work up to, which would also serve as additional fuel for wanting those prestigious clan mechs instead. I can then go into this campaign with the expectation that it's going to be the challenge it's supposed to be. I need to bring my A game, and the character dialogue will appropriately match my own feelings during battle. Appropriately. There, got it. The final mission in the Shadow of Kerensky DLC was nothing to write home about. Instead of a challenging gauntlet or a boss fight, it was just more of the same. Follow the provided path, bulldoze through the enemy force, and make it to the dropship. By this point, we had been playing for roughly 7 hours or so we had lost track of how many missions were left. But we weren't expecting this mission to be the finale, because it didn't feel like one. Nor do I think it was supposed to be. The succeeding cutscene suggests there's more work to be done.
The Sharks and other clans have hidden data caches and logistic networks scattered among the periphery. That information would be invaluable to the right people. Kerensky's dissenters have come from beyond, and IE is sitting on the most accurate star charts of systems beyond the inner sphere's borders. Look at the bright side, kid. We play our cards right, we get to keep all the money.
But then it just ends. With no indication to the player that the DLC has run its course, other than, of course, there being no missions left to do. Now, this can lead to some initial dissatisfaction because it doesn't feel like the story concluded in a meaningful way, but I feel like it was done that way on purpose to make way for future DLCs, where the story continues on. And I hope that it does, because I want to know where these characters decide to go now that the inner sphere has been turned upside down. Will they continue to sneak around the periphery and find those old bases? Will they take on a more proactive role in the war? Will they eventually join Comstar at Tukayet? I sure hope we find out, but for now, that's the end of the Shadow of Kerensky DLC. In conclusion, did I enjoy my time? Yeah, of course I did, it's MechWarrior. And I got to play a game that I love with my friends who also love the game for like 10 hours. What more could I ask for? Do I think it's perfect? No, of course not. You've made it this far, you've heard my criticisms. But I wasn't expecting it to be, nor was I expecting it to be a full-fledged campaign. But for what it is, it's good enough to warrant a few playthroughs, and the open-endedness of Mercenaries Sandbox opens up new gameplay and potential DLC possibilities with the continuation of the conflict. I do think it's worth its price, considering the amount of new stuff that's been added. There are very, very few games these days that I'll buy day one, and that includes DLC, because I'm just not interested in most games these days to warrant their release price. But MechWarrior is one of those games on that list, because it's been a favorite of mine and a staple of my gaming catalog since I was like 12. I'm not always happy with the choices PGI makes, they haven't had the best track record, but they are still dedicated to giant stompy robots. And so am I. I'm glad that they're continuing to build upon the games they've created, because that means that my friends and I can continue to enjoy them. And hey, PGI, if you're listening, now that the clan mechs are in the game, when can I expect to see my beloved Sunspider? The production date is 3050 after all. And that's gonna be all for now. Thanks a bunch for watching. Check out my affiliate links, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe and hit the like button. Until next time,
Stay warm and stay alive out there, Commander.